Good morning, traders. This is Barry Wilkey with StartupTrading.com. It is 8:42 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday, June 29, 2020. So this week will be a shortened week with potential holding pattern until non-farm payroll later in the week. So we'll see what happens. And by the way, that is the last major news until Tuesday, July 14th, after this Friday. Or after this Thursday. So after this Thursday, between when futures open back up next week, if we look at the calendar here, uh, futures open back up on the 6th from the 6th until the 14th. There's no major news. The banks start reporting Tuesday the 14th before the bell. So look for a little bit of a holding pattern this week. We've got we'll get into the calendar. We got Powell on the mic on Tuesday, got non-farm payroll on Thursday, FOMC minutes on Wednesday, and I expect it's just going to be a chop fest until we get to Thursday, and then it's going to be all COVID news from the 6th until the 13th, and then we'll get the banks on the 14th. So looking back at Friday's session, so Thursday into the close, we had some pie in the sky prints. These sky marks I have on the profiles, and really couldn't get any traction above there. Lost some key technical support that we were looking at for both the ES and the NASDAQ. For the ES, that was 3061.5, and for the NASDAQ, that was 10,023.25. So both were lost, and then really just went down below value and didn't get any traction much below there. Just kind of reset just slightly under value for the rest of the day. So looking at the just in this is value area, another way of looking at value area high zone and the value area low zone, these gray boxes. This is just a tick session for a 1600 tick chart of the session. So right here is the point of control that we're using. So if you look at these gray or the pink and the green boxes, those were the overnight value area zones, high and low, with the point of control for the overnight session. So this is where we traded coming into the bell on Friday, right? So we're opening up when the bell rang right at the overnight value area low, and right in the middle of the value area high zone. So as we come across, we can't get even back out of the value area low from the overnight, come back down, lost the value area high zone, and just went right through down to the value area low zone and couldn't get back above it. And just really that was rejection the rest of the day as we just stayed under it. So looking at this week, like I said, we have nothing really going on today. Pending home sales at 10 o'clock, no big deal. Tomorrow, 9:45, Chicago PMI. I don't know if that'll be too much of a thing. Tuesday at 11:05, we have Governor Laurel Brainerd at a decade of Dodd-Frank, co-hosted by the Brookings Institute. So I don't think that's going to be a big deal either. So we have testimony at 12:30 on Tuesday from Powell. This is going to be potentially whippy for the market, I think. This is going to be over the Coronavirus Aid Relief Package and Economic Security Act, and it's going to be before the Committee on Financial Services on the House of Representatives. So that's going to be more the Democrats' thoughts for the day. Then Wednesday we're going to have ADP. It's usually not a big mover, believe it or not. So I got it noted as a blue star. So then going into the rest of Wednesday is just really not a lot. You got the FOMC minutes at 2 o'clock. That'll be probably a volatility event, but it's not going to start a trend because Thursday before the bell, we're going to have non-farm payroll. That's really what's going to start it. And just a reminder, Friday, the markets will be closed this week. That's why we're having non-farm payroll on Thursday. So looking back at the current session, 43 points, right? And just looking back at the last, you know, uh, few weeks here, as we lost 30.71 basically, and we came down. We had a little bit of a crash down in that 29.23.75. As we've caught up, we've basically have, if you look at, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 zones here, right, with 3 little divisors. So we'll see how these play out. And well, we've got some pivotal points for the market as well. So we've got above 31.15 and below 31.05 for the ES. So as we look at it, remember the previous Tuesday, we really couldn't get out of Tuesday's range that was just traded in 2.5 hours. And we spent most of the week below that. Finally gapped down below it on the previous Friday's close. Last Sunday opened, right? We zoomed up, come back down, retested that 61.5, come back up, and we flirted with, holding above the 31.15 or holding below the 31.05. So that was decided on Wednesday as we come down. Now if we go into the more recent action, so we've got, a couple days down here. We tried to take it out a couple days up here. Really couldn't even sniff this supply zone up here. And now we're just, treading water down here. And if we look at really what's going on with the session so far, we're just right in the middle of the value, right? So I have a low zone and a high zone, and I'm going to show that a little bit differently. I'm going to just show you real quick than I have been in the past, I think, to make it a little bit easier to read. So once the market opens, right, this is what the value area zones are going to look like. You get a high zone and a low zone. So on the low zone, right, on a balanced day, this is where demand should be, right? You should find bids around here on a balanced day, and you should find sellers up in the value area high zone as well on a balanced day. So on a breakaway day, one way or the other, once you're above it, this should be where demand starts, is in this value area high zone, if it's going to keep it pushed back up. Likewise, if you're going to sell off, right, once you're below it, you come back up, this should be where the supply is, overhead supply, and rejected. And then the just the flat gray in the middle is just pure value. So just a little bit on that. I think it'll be a little bit easier to display, to be honest with you. So as we look at it, the overnight session, although we did get down, we didn't breach that 29.81, which is a support level down below. And we've really spent the majority of the overnight inside of value for the Dow and the ES. If you look at the NASDAQ, right, it's actually spent a lot of time below, but there's another distribution zone down here, basically from 98.35 down to 97.44, and it's trying to stay above that distribution. So we'll see how that fight goes. And if you look at the Russell, right, the Russell is making good traction every time it gets down to the supply zone. It's found demand once it's been above it, right? So it's finding value area high, and it's going back above it so far. So a little bit of a mixed bag that way. So looking at sequencing overnight, a little bit of more of an edge to the bulls, but not a lot. It's pretty sloppy action if you ask me. Same for the NASDAQ. The Russell is, again, the only one that's really doing well as far as sequencing. And you can see, hit target, retraced, hit target, possible retrace. So the line in the sand for the Russell right now is going to be 1375.20 is going to be where that is. So looking at the ES on these longer term contracts again, we went through this, but right around 27 is still 30.27 is still more of a major line for me. And you can see, how we've just kind of stair-stepped down through here right to this 3,000. And one thing I didn't bring up, and I should see if I can grab it real quick here. Oops, wrong chart, sorry. Yeah, we'll see if I'll give it one more shot. Here we go. Sorry about that. So when we get down to this 3,000, I think this is why we're struggling too. We got this big fat node down here, and as we look at these nodes, as we're going through there, there's a lot of supply. So we're coming in from above, right? There's there's a lot of demand. There's a lot of demand down here, basically between 3019 all the way down to basically 28, 50 is all just a zone where there should be, buyers, because we're coming back down to where a lot of prices had traded earlier. And that's the real struggle. And then above, this was when we first got into here a few weeks ago, when we, were crushing above this. I said this is a zone that we could spend months in, basically between 3,000 and 3,300, and we kind of topped off right here where this, overhead supply ended up being right around this 3,200 marker. So we're not going anything. I don't think we're going to flash through this zone, right? I just don't see it. We could, maybe quickly get down to 29.35, but I don't think we're going from, 29.35 down to 28.43 at a very good clip. I don't think that's on the table. So again, watching this 3027 is going to be more of something I'm paying attention to. Do we end up above it or below it? And where do we sit later? I think what could end up playing out this week is we just end up with a little bit more of chopping back and forth as we're in this holding pattern. And basically, like I said, below this 2981, I'm going to pay more attention to. We could get stuck down in the next node, and that does lead us down, much further from where we're currently at. That's going to take us, down to that 2881. So with that said, let's look at the NASDAQ. So you can see the NASDAQ's a little bit weaker even than the ES is, and it's struggling right now with those zones. So I think you can really watch those markers that I have on here. But really, if this doesn't hold, the next level I've got it's at 97.44, and then basically 96. 9,700, right around in there. Looking at the Russell, who's a little bit stronger in the overnight session, right? You can see it's coming back up. Mostly just fell back off, but it's really hitting this bigger part of the node right at 1403, and that's going to be some resistance. You can see how we had that overhead supply, so it's just come into that overhead supply from the previous couple days. It really needs to get over that and this low and this leg start down. So really, it needs to see back above 1421 before it's going to start really putting any squeeze at all on the bears. So again, just sitting here at 1403 to basically 1369.80 is probably going to be the range. Below that, you've got a nice support area, and we'll probably change this to more of a solid line. That's going to come up right at 1353.60. Looking at the Dow, it's just really stuck until we get down to, you can see that Friday it tested that level, and at the beginning of the overnight session. So this 24,775, really I don't have any real resistance again until we get up to these higher, areas 25,462. We might as well just call it right now. and then below that 24,555, which should be easy to remember, and then 24,171. Those are the areas, but more than likely we just get stuck in this range that we're currently in and don't have anything else really going today. So looking back at all these indices, what do I think is the more important? I want to see if the Nasdaq can hold basically Friday's low. If not, I think we're going down to 97.44. When we get down there, that's going to be a key point for the Nasdaq. Can it hold that level or does it breach it? For the rest of these indices, I'm just going to watch the value area high zones, and I'll print out for all of the indexes so you guys that play other things other than the ES, which is my primary symbol that I trade. I will set out the overnight high and low zones for each of the indices, just starting this morning and going forward, so you can watch to see if we're holding the value area or if we're breaking above it or breaking below it. And then after we do those zones come into play, right? Once you get above it, does the demand come in for the high zone? Does the supply come in for the low zone? That's really what you want to pay attention to when I post those levels. I hope this helps. I hope you guys have a great day. I will see you tomorrow.